That's a pretty depressing title, all right? But what I want to do in the next 5 minutes is go through the evidence using 10 numbers to show you why we're so concerned. So, here's my first number. Now, I was going to say I was going to use 10 images, but I've actually used a lot more here than I think is legal. But anyway, just forgive me. So, 1 million associated with coral reefs. What do you think of? Anyone know what that number represents? Well, it's the minimum number of species on this underwater rainforest. And in fact, they think it's an underestimate. And they only think they've got about 50% of the species because the rate of discovery is so large. So that's one number that we have to have here. And here's the second number. Now, Daniel Gershwind pointed to this number. Anyone know what this number is? The big juicy number, isn't it? $6 billion. That's how many dollars the Great Barrier Reef brings into the Queensland, Australian economy from tourism and fisheries each year. And it happens every year in perpetuity if we look after the reef. Okay? Now here's another number. I'm just trying to get some audience interaction going here. 14 million when you're with a picture like that. Because, you know, Australians are not just about dollars. We love our reef. And it's one of the most recognisable parts of our landscape. Apparently that more people know about the Great Barrier Reef than John Howard. Imagine that. Legend. Even Bob Hawke. But that's the number of recreational visitors to the Great Barrier Reef. That's more than half of our population in size. So it's huge, all right? So I guess at this point you have to say, all right, this place is worth some money, we love it, it provides employment and so on. And as a coral reef scientist, I'll show you this image, I'll get your hopes up, and then I'll show you this. Yeah, it's pretty sneaky, right? Your hopes are really high and it's and that's what's increasingly happening on our Great Barrier Reef. And this leads to the next number. Anyone know what this number is? 50 years. 50 years, that's close. Well, actually, it's related to this bit of evidence from the Great Barrier Reef, from the Australian Institute of Marine Sciences. And it's the amount of coral that we've lost since the early 1980s. Now, when you look at that and you get out your ruler, you get the next number. And guess what that is? It's 0. Because if we go through that trend over time and we keep on going down, we will end up with a Great Barrier Reef that doesn't have coral. Now, that's going to call into question whether we've got still something great that we can advertise and get all those people over to pay all that money, go on those very long journeys on aircraft. So that's my, I don't know, where's the fourth number? All right, now, what's this number? 4. Well, there are 4 main threats to the Great Barrier Reef. The first one, which we talked a lot of today, the experts in the centre, about water quality. That if you destroy coastal processes and you get a lot of sediments and nutrients out on the reef dies. As well as that, it's fishing. If we don't do fishing clever, and it's not about not fishing, it's about fishing in a clever way where you don't wipe out all the fish so you don't have any fish to fish, if you get my meaning. The second one is ocean acidification. That's just CO2 going in the atmosphere, going to the ocean. It's chemistry, it's happening. We've made changes already that are unparalleled in 65 million years and will take tens of thousands of years to return. And the last one is global warming. Now, when you take this first 2, the box on this side, there are really easy fixes. Well, not easy fixes, but there are straightforward fixes. It's about not interfering with coastal processes. It's about constraining the development of infrastructure such as ports and so on. And if you can do that and you can work with the farmers to keep the soil and nutrients on the land, we can have some real wins in this area, right? And we can also have, as we saw in 2004, a better park system that looks after fish forever, so that we have fishing, we have those great moments. But what about these other 2? Well, this gets us to this next number, 2. Now, what's that about? Anyone give me a definition of 2 that makes sense here? Yes, you got it! 2 degrees of warming above the pre-industrial. If we take our planet's temperature and we bump it up this amount, the best science, the consensus that came from the IPCC in March and so on, means that most corals will bleach on an annual basis and eventually dwindle and disappear. Okay, so that's a bit of a bummer. I don't know where to go, Ruben. Where do I go next? Solutions. Well, what we've got to do is prevent that happening. This is a set of photographs going from today where we've got reefs that are in a little bit of trouble, and of course they're slipping away, but we can reverse them if we're smart. We've got the middle of the century where we don't want to go beyond, and we've got the future if we continue on the pathway we're on right now. Okay, so here are my 3 favourite numbers. This is like shopping, and this has been used in the Centre for Excellence talks by Professor Hugh Possingham. That it's all about shopping. It's all about knowing what your budget is and making clever decisions. So that first number is the amount of CO2 we have left to emit to the atmosphere before we go beyond 2 degrees. It's 500 gigatons. Anyone know what 35 is referring to? 30. Oh, yep.
Yes.
Yes, what is it?
Yes.
What? Yes? Oh, 35 years, you're right. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Ruben, take over. 35 is our rate at which we're expending that budget, that CO2 budget. Remember, we've got 500 gigatons. We're actually burning 35 gigatons of fossil fuels each year globally. So if you divide 500 by 35, you get around about 14 to 15 years left. That's the amount of time that we have left to fix the problem. And it is fixable. It just takes us getting on with the solutions and not burning fossil fuels. Okay, so here we are. It's all about shopping for the informed. This is where the fork in the road comes, right? You've got 2 tracks. The problem with forks like this, and I'm a really expert hiker, I wouldn't know which way to go because it all looks pretty good right now. The problem with climate change is that there are real consequences to making the decision to go left or right in this diagram. And if I go left and I continue to do what we do here in Australia and elsewhere in the world, expend more CO2 into the atmosphere, we don't take management seriously, we disrupt coastal processes using ports and unrestrained agriculture, we will have a future like that, which is a great future for bacteria. But if we take that 500 gigatons and we go, right, let's be smart about this. Let's transition to economies that are low CO2. Let's spend that budget carefully. And we take at the same time the imperative to improve water quality, to manage fisheries. We can get on a pathway in which that is the future. That's where we want to be. So those, to me, are the most important numbers that face the Great Barrier Reef. Thank you.